Hey everybody, welcome to ARE Live. I'm Patrick Finnegan, producer of ARE Live here at Black Spectacles, and I'm joined with architect Chiara Galici, who's going to host a discussion on how to pass the ARE 5.0 in 2025. If you're joining us for the first time, Black Spectacles is the leader in ARE prep. We work with learning scientists and architects to ensure you're studying the right content and that you retain it so you can pass on the first try. We've built everything you need to pass the exams, including new video lectures with motion graphics and 3D animations, practice exams that are as close to the real thing as you can get, flashcards, quizzes, and virtual workshops. And they're all built upon a curriculum that ensures you're learning the right content, and they all work together with our custom-built platform to ensure that you retain the information so you remember it for the exams. It's why our pass rates are 50% higher than the national average, and why our members report passing in half the time of the national average. Over on our Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook social channels, we post mock exam questions daily. So if you don't already follow us, I'd suggest that you do. We're at black.spectacles on Instagram and TikTok, and just Black Spectacles on Facebook. Our next ARE Live session will be on March 19th, where we'll be continuing our three-part series covering study tactics to pass the ARE 5.0 on your first try. You can go to blackspectacles.com/podcast to sign up. I want to tell you guys about a couple referral programs that we also have. We offer a group referral program for firms and schools, where if you introduce us to your boss or HR, and if they sign up, we'll give you a $250 gift card of your choice. To participate, follow the instructions on blackspectacles.com/group-referral. We also offer a refer a friend program, where you can sign up to receive a customized discount code to save your friend 15% off any Black Spectacles membership. And you'll receive a $50 gift card of your choice when they redeem. If you have 5 friends and they all sign up, you'll receive 5 gift cards as well too. You can go to blackspectacles.com/referral to participate. Today, we're going to be engaging exclusively on our online ARE community. So head over to community.blackspectacles.com, and right at the top, you'll see we've pinned a thread called ARE Live, How to Pass the ARE 5.0 in 2025. If you have any questions as we're going through ARE Live today, post your questions there and we'll answer them when we get them. And everyone who posts in that thread today will be eligible to win a free Black Spectacles t-shirt. Literally, all you have to do is go over to community.blackspectacles.com and say hi. By doing that, you're registered. So Black Spectacles is hosting a 30-day study challenge to help you pass one exam in 30 days. The 30-day study challenge is here to help you stay focused and on track with a clear study plan, built-in accountability, and a supportive community to help you confidently schedule and pass your next ARE exam. This challenge starts tomorrow on Thursday, February 20th, and ends on Friday, March 21st. And it's exclusively available for pro and expert members. You can sign up by going to your learning dashboard on learn.blackspectacles.com. Our community forum isn't just for ARE Live questions as well too. We also just launched a new podcast called Licensure Stories, which you can find on our ARE community, our YouTube channel, or your favorite podcasting service, where our founder, Mark Tier, interviews recently licensed architects to learn about their struggles and successes. So you can learn how they did it. Check out Licensure Stories on our ARE community or YouTube channel. And with that, I'd like to welcome today's guest, Chiara. In addition to working with us here at Black Spectacles, Chiara is an architect based in Oregon. Welcome, Chiara.
Hi, thank you so much, Patrick. I appreciate it. I'm happy to be here.
Of course. Great to see you.
Thank you. So as Patrick mentioned, my name is Chiara Galici and I'm a product coordinator at Black Spectacles, where I manage our virtual workshops, one-on-one consultations, and community engagement in online platforms such as our ARE community. I'm originally from Lahaina, Hawaii, and I graduated from the University of Oregon with my architecture degree. And I started studying for the ARE 5.0 after working in the field for about a year. Took a little over a year to pass all 6 exams, and then ultimately became a registered architect in the state of Oregon at the end of 2022. I, along with the entire Black Spectacles team, am very passionate about encouraging aspiring architects to become licensed, and I'm excited to help you all support you on this journey. So as Patrick mentioned, today we'll be talking about how to pass the ARE 5.0, building upon our last episode of how to become licensed, and then kind of as a segue into our upcoming episode of study tactics to pass on the ARE 5.0 on your first try. So today we'll talk about how to pass the ARE 5.0, as well as what order to take the exams in, and then we'll end with a Q&A session. So how to pass the ARE 5.0. Of the 3 major steps to becoming licensed, education, experience, and exams, the exam step can definitely be the most daunting. While the amount of content you need to study can be overwhelming, know that learning the content is really just a portion of the battle. Conquering the ARE 5.0 involves 3 key factors. First, learn and understand the content. Review the ARE 5.0 guidelines, which is a document provided by NCARB, and it is updated frequently, so make sure that you're looking at the most updated version, just to know that what you're actually being tested on. Revisit it regularly throughout your study process and understand all the ins and outs of it. It's a pretty lengthy document, so just be sure that you're understanding all the full guidelines. Each division has a set of content areas and objectives, and every question that you encounter on the ARE will tie back to one of the specified objectives. So it's important to become familiar with these. Refer to the ARE 5.0 reference guide for study resources. That's also a part of this ARE 5.0 guidelines document. And pay close attention to the indicated relevance, primary versus supplemental, as well as which resources have overlap within multiple divisions. Next month's ARE Live episode will dive deeper into learning and understanding the content of the ARE 5.0 and how Black Spectacles can help you through this. So second, apply your knowledge and experience to the exam format. Refer to the ARE 5.0 guidelines document to understand the exam policies and how you will be tested. Determine whether you will test in a testing center or through an online proctored exam. There could be pros and cons to either option, so the decision ultimately depends on where you would feel most comfortable. Know how the exam will be structured. So each division has a specified total appointment duration, which includes the test duration and an optional break. So just understand, how much time you have for each division, how many items you're given, and try to make a plan in that way. Understand the cognitive levels of the NCARB objectives. There are 2 different levels: understand and apply, also known as UA level, and then analyze and evaluate, which is AE level. And every objective on the ARE will tie back to one of these levels so that you know how you're actually going to be asked questions on the exam. Understand the 5 ARE 5.0 item types, how to approach them, and how to provide appropriate answers for them. So there are 5 types: multiple choice, check all that apply, hotspot, drag and place, and case studies. Some you may be familiar with from past exams you might have taken in school, but some may be new to you. And so just understanding how to navigate these is really key to successfully passing the exam. Become familiar and comfortable with the exam interface and tools available to you. And this will help you understand how to navigate those different item types. So on the ARE 5.0, you're given a highlighter tool, a strike-through tool, calculator, a whiteboard, and references. So, practice around with practice exams, know how to navigate these different tools and use them to your greatest advantage. The best way to confidently apply your knowledge and experience to the exam format is to practice, practice, practice. Utilize the practice quizzes and exams to familiarize yourself with the way that questions are being asked, how to decipher complex questions, to eliminate distracting information, and again, utilizing these tools to your greatest advantage so that you can be successful. All right, and then the third factor here of passing the ARE is to combat the external stressors. So this is often the most difficult factor to overcome, as it encompasses a lot, and it's a lot of things that you don't maybe realize are actually might be hindering your studying or your ability to take the exams, because it's just things that happen on a daily and it's inevitable. But how to combat them is really what we want to try and overcome here. So first, develop a strategic and realistic study plan. Black Spectacles offers study guides to give you an idea of how and when you should tackle the study materials. We've created both a 30 and a 60-day plan for each division so you can determine which one you want to follow. Studying for 15 to 20 hours per week over 4 to 8 weeks is a good rule of thumb to follow for each exam. This could vary depending on how much experience you have in that division or what your comfort level is with the content. So you can, take this as a rule of thumb and adjust it as needed. In general, a consistent amount of studying over the course of each week leading up to your exam is ideal to keep the information fresh and constantly cycling in your mind. A 30-minute study session after work each day might be more effective than adding an extra 30 minutes to a marathon study day on the weekend, for example. And adapt the study guides to your work and personal life. If Mondays are typically a busy day at work and you often come home feeling drained, maybe you spend just 15 minutes reviewing flashcards on those days and spend a little longer learning new content on other days. Next, schedule your exam and mark it on the calendar. Sometimes this is one of the most intimidating steps in the process, but having a deadline to work towards will keep you motivated and encourage you to stay on track with your study plan. Don't wait to schedule your exam until you feel ready. Chances are that you will never feel 100% ready to take the exam, and that's okay. As long as you utilize your study materials and time wisely and keep on track with your study plan, you will be in great shape. Next, find a consistent time of day that works best for you. Consider your personal habits and emotional mindsets as it relates to the time of day. Are you an early riser who likes to get things done before work? Are you a night owl that finds yourself most productive late at night? Are you able to multitask, or do you find yourself distracted when too many things are happening at once? So knowing yourself and how you work best is really key here. Mornings are a great time to study, as our brains tend to be sharpest after a refreshing night's sleep. You could even sneak in an ARE Live episode like this one during your commute to work. Studying in the evenings after work is a great way to connect tasks you did earlier in the day to new content you are learning. Whereas studying late at night just before bed could also work, but only if you're still getting proper sleep and not trying to cram too much information in before you go to sleep. Utilizing breaks during work is great for refresher times, such as reviewing flashcards. However, you should try not to cram new information in during these breaks, as many distractions could be present and actually inhibit the ability to retain that new information. So along this, after finding the time of day that works best for you and getting your studying in, it's really important to take breaks regularly and when stress levels start to rise. So taking 5 to 10 minute breaks in moderation allows your mind to process and reflect on what was just learned before diving into anything new. Breaks can also be helpful milestones to stay motivated and avoid burnout. For example, take a break at the end of each section or after 2 hours of studying. It's really important to check in with your emotions. If you are feeling stressed or having difficulty concentrating, take a break or call it a day. You're not going to be, doing yourself any favors by just cramming more information in and then feeling burnt out at the end of a study session. Next, try not to get caught up in the numbers. So this is something that I struggled with and many candidates will struggle with is, trying to determine what do I need to pass the exam and being stressed about that along the way. But again, try not to get caught up in it. Remember that you don't need to score 100% on these exams in order to pass. NCARB establishes a specific cut score range for passing, which varies from 58 to 71% of correctly scored items, depending on the division. Don't try to score 100% on practice exams to test your readiness for the real thing. Rather, focus on deeply understanding the content and not focus on memorizing the answers. Utilize your work experience to enhance your knowledge, but don't let it affect the way you answer exam questions. If you have experience in the field, don't let that be diminished along this journey. Connect your studies with past, present, and future scenarios that you may encounter at work, because really that's what the ARE 5.0 is. It's real life situations that helps you become an architect. However, reality does not always align perfectly with scenarios on the ARE. So try to approach the content objectively. Remember that you're providing answers that NCARB is looking for. Really, in the end, a healthy balance of understanding NCARB objectives, mastering exam content, and utilizing your work experience is key. Lastly, stay focused and hold yourself accountable for your studies. Why are you studying for the ARE? What is your driving purpose? Write this why down and keep it top of mind. Revisit it regularly for motivation throughout the process, just to make sure that you are staying focused and knowing why you're doing what you're doing. Find or create a comfortable study environment that is free of distractions. Really, in the end, you know yourself better than anyone else. So if something's not working, make adjustments early on so that you can translate it into the rest of your ARE journey successfully. Don't worry about what others are saying or what others are doing. Do what's best for you, because again, you know yourself best and you will be able to get through it as long as you listen to yourself. Of what order to take the exams. So there are 6 divisions within the ARE 5.0. So there is first practice management, PCM, project management, PJM, programming and analysis, PA, project planning and design, PPD, project development and documentation, PDD, and construction and evaluation, CE. A common question we hear is, what order should I take the exams in? There is no right or wrong answer here, as it depends on your personal preference and how you feel you would learn and succeed best. What worked for someone else may not be the best order for you, and vice versa. So just again, as in you know yourself better than anyone else, really reflect on this and think what would work best for me. Here are a few suggested approaches as a starting point. So first, take similar ARE divisions together. You can go to the next slide, Patrick. Take similar ARE divisions together. There is a ton of overlap between the 6 divisions, and they essentially build upon each other, just as design phases do. If you study for multiple divisions together, the information you learn from one exam will remain fresh for the next exam, and you won't feel like you're restudying content, but rather enhancing what you've already learned from a different perspective. For example, PCM, PJM, and CE are considered the professional practice or contract-based exams. Dissecting and understanding the AIA contract documents, for example, is crucial for all 3 of these exams. PA, PPD, and PDD, on the other hand, are considered the technical exams and align directly with the phases of design. Knowing how to navigate building codes and regulations, for example, come into play for all 3 of these exams. So even if you're studying for multiple divisions simultaneously, you should still space out your exam dates appropriately. Ensure that you have adequate preparation time and focus study for the specific exam at hand. However, a lot of core content of similar exams will be relevant. So this could be an efficient approach just to maximize your study time and knowledge base. This is the approach that I personally took, and it worked very well for me. Utilize your existing knowledge and experience is another approach. So if you have strength or experience in a particular area, take advantage of that and tackle that division first. This may help you get an easy pass right away and just help you keep your momentum going as you move through the rest of the divisions. For example, if most of your experience involves analyzing sites for opportunities and constraints, and then determining potential design solutions, maybe PA would be a great first exam for you to start with. And then from there, you can integrate the previously mentioned approach of taking similar ARE divisions together. For example, PPD, then PDD. And then you can end with PCM, PJM, and CE. The last approach here is to follow the Black Spectacles approach. And that is PCM, PJM, PA, PPD, PDD, and CE, which is how NCARB organizes them. So take PCM first, because you actually have to study for it. It is unlikely that you will have a ton of experience in this area, which means that you will need to learn the information in a different way. And this will get you into the mindset of studying essentially from scratch and developing strategies that work best for you. You'll have the opportunity to learn directly from the books without any personal or work experiences clouding your knowledge. And not only will you learn the content needed for PCM, you'll be understanding the exam format, just as we talked about, in the same way along the process. You'll be getting familiar with the tools and the interface, and you'll know what it takes to pass an exam so that you can move forward successfully. From there, you can take PJM because it overlaps a lot with PCM, and then move on to PA, PPD, PDD, and CE in that order. These 4 divisions align with the design phases of a project, which will help you think about the content logically from start to finish. Overall, try not to stress too much about what order to take the exams because I know that is a really hot topic. But at the end of the day, you'll find a system that works best for you. Getting the process started and developing a study plan that works for you are the most important things. And once you do this, you'll be well on your way to passing the ARE 5.0 and becoming a licensed architect.
Thanks so much for that, Kiara. I'm also going to be introducing Emily, who's a licensed architect on our team as well too. We're now going to be hosting a live Q&A session for about 15-20 minutes. So if you want to go to community.blackspectacles.com, you can find a thread called ARE Live, How to Pass the ARE 5.0 in 2025, and you can drop any questions in there, and that can be how to approach certain types of questions, how to what order to take, where you're at to, what to do when you pass, what to do when you fail as well too. And in the meantime, actually, Kiara, you actually run our fail consultations as well too. Maybe you can speak on a couple kind of trends you've seen from people, maybe certain exams that are like notoriously harder, or just certain things that are just a lot harder for some of our members.
Yeah, definitely. So as Patrick mentioned, I run our one-on-one consultations. And so if you do not pass an exam by chance, then you need to figure out a game plan moving forward. And something that I see a lot are really those external stressors that I had mentioned. And I think candidates not realizing that these things come into play when taking the exam. It's easy to get caught up in what do I need to study and try to cram in as much material as possible. But really, it's a lot of the other factors in addition to learning the content. So one common one I see is too little studying. So, maybe you're studying for just a few hours on the weekends every week and not touching it on the weekdays. But like we mentioned, consistent studying is really important over the course of the weeks leading up to your exam. On the other side of that, studying too much could also hinder your ability to retain the information. If you're just studying with no breaks and just going full steam ahead every day, that really is not allowing your brain to process the information. So trying to find ways to find a balance. Speaking on exams that are more difficult, PPD and PDD definitely are some of the more difficult exams. They're lengthier, so they have a lot of content in them. I personally did not pass PPD on my first try, and it was really difficult just trying to figure out how to navigate that. But just knowing that it's very common to have a miss along the way, regardless of the division, was really reassuring. And just knowing like, okay, it's common to have a miss and then just figure out what to do moving forward. So like I said, PPD is the one that's notoriously harder, I would imagine, just from experience and from what I've been seeing in consultations. But on that same trend, a lot of candidates will start with PCM. And if you're not familiar with the exam content, that could be the miss that you have on the way. And so just trying to figure out how to navigate these three factors, right? The learning the content, understanding the format, and then combating the external stressors is important.
Thanks, Kara. I've got a couple questions. And so this first one's actually from Miguel. And that would be, what is a good time frame to allocate as a good amount of time to study per exam? What worked for you? And then also, what have you seen that's worked for others as well too?
Yeah, definitely. So we recommend, we put together our study plans for each division, and we have a 30-day and a 60-day plan. So those are two different tracks that you could choose between. So essentially 4 or 8 weeks, depending on how quick you want to get through the material or how you personally learn best. It really depends on the individual. So I'd say definitely no less than 30 days. But if you have, some experience in the division, or you're familiar with the content, you could probably adjust this a little bit. I would say no more than the 60 days, because we get to that point of just, kind of turning our wheels and not really focusing on retaining the info, but just learning more and more and more. For me personally, I did allocate about this between 1 to 2 months per exam. I mentioned that I took that approach of taking similar exams together. So I kind of studied for PCM, PJM, and CE together, and basically focused on understanding the contracts for a month, and then just knowing the ins and outs of all the AIA contracts because it applied to all 3 exams, and then took about a month dedicated to each specific division. PA, PPD, and PDD, I felt like those were a lot, because they were more technical, required a little bit more study time for me, so it was a little bit closer to 2 months per exam. But again, this varies per person. That's just the general rule of thumb we'd recommend.
Awesome, cool. And then we have 2 from Roweda as well too. This first one, I feel like I got the answer for this one, but this first one is how to schedule a one-on-one fail consultation. And for that one, you're gonna wanna go into your dashboard and select if you'd passed or failed one of your exams. Once you select that you failed one of your exams, a pop-up will, like a form will pop up, and that way you can start the one-on-one fail consultations, or you can book one as well too. That's correct, Kiara, right?
Yeah, essentially. So when you report your very first fail results, you'll actually get an email, and it will come within a few days, so it won't come immediately. And then that will have a link to a pre-consultation survey. And from there, you can fill that out, and then that will get sent to me. I'll see the information, and then you'll then receive an email to schedule with one of our consultants. If you go through this process and you don't get that email, feel free to reach out to our support, and then we'll be sure to get you set up with a consultation.
Perfect, awesome. And then they also have one more question on how do you prepare for CE, especially like the technical material on that, because that's and this could also be related to all the other technical exams, but really what's the best way to approach the technical aspect for studying?
Yeah, I can speak on this, and then maybe if Emily wants to add anything. So CE is one of those tricky ones. it doesn't really have any technical objectives outlined in the ARE 5.0 guidelines. You know, it appears just right off the bat to be very contract based and project management based, which is why they tend to be lumped with PCM and PJM. But as you're familiar, there's some technical aspects involved. And so what I personally did, and what I always recommend, is to take a look at PDD and maybe even PPD, and see which of those areas you feel like you could use some further elaboration on as it relates to construction. So what comes to top of mind are construction details are really key for CE, that kind of builds off of the construction documents phase. And so those areas are what I would dive into. So it's kind of like picking and choosing from different divisions that could be relevant. Emily, do you have anything else to add to that?
Yeah, actually, I was going to say that CE is an exam. I know you covered that the order doesn't really matter and it's based on preference, but having studied for PPD and PDD may help you with CE for all the reasons that Kiara just mentioned. So keep that in mind as well. You might also be somebody who's in your career at a stage where you have experienced a lot of construction and evaluation, so you might be more familiar with the concepts in CE, but I do agree that preparing for the two previous exams, PPD and PDD, is going to help you with CE.
Awesome, thanks for that. Just a couple more questions that we have in here too. I also do see one that Nias is saying that they can't hear any audio. I'm gonna send you a message on this right now, but it'd probably be best if you left the session and then came back in as well too. We have a couple more questions from the community. This next one is from El Menino. On the failing topic, would you move and study for the next session before retaking the failed exam?
That's a great question. And this is also one of those that it really is up to you and what you feel works best for you, because it's, it really depends on preference and kind of where you're at. So regardless of whether you move on to the next exam or you keep studying for the one you're retaking, I would always recommend to get your retake scheduled right away. So get that on the calendar. Typically it's 60 days later is what the timeline is from whenever you fail that exam. And from there, you just know that you're going to retake it 60 days later. If you feel like there are exams that you are, have next up in line, for example, you just, did not pass PCM, but PJM is one that you haven't taken yet. It may be worth diving into that material and trying to forge ahead with PJM, because there's so much similar content that you have already the space knowledge from PCM. Now you're going to add in the PJM knowledge, and then, just kind of switch gears, allow your brain to kind of reset, reframe the way you're thinking of things, and just get a fresh set of materials, jump into PJM, take PJM, pass, and then go back to PCM, and then you'll be able to pass that one because you now have this like accumulated knowledge from PCM and PJM. If that approach seems overwhelming to you and you're the type of person that needs to kind of like check off that PCM before diving into other stuff and just kind of get a handle on that base material, then focusing on PCM would be wise. Speaking from personal experience, when I did not pass PPD, I switched gears and I started studying for PDD. And that really helped me just understand the similar topics, but from a different perspective. And I just had more context. I was able to apply the PPD knowledge to PDD, and then vice versa when I retook PPD. So hopefully that answers your question. But again, it really depends, but that is a great approach if you feel like it could work for you.
Awesome, cool. And then we have another question from N Nutting. This one's in our community. They're saying, I personally failed PPD on my first try. What are your suggestions on regrouping and managing to get through this exam on my second try?
Yeah, so totally can empathize with you, because I mentioned I did not pass PPD and it's a really difficult exam. So a couple of different things. So first, I would, like I said, just get the retake on the books just so that you have that to work towards in 60 days. And then you can kind of figure out in the meantime if you want to revisit the PPD material or maybe forge ahead into another division like PDD. In this time to start looking at more information from a different perspective. Regardless, you should look at your score report that NCARB gives you, because there's a lot of great information there. Taking a look at how you performed in the content areas. The ones that were weaker are ones you could focus on moving forward and target those specific areas. And then the areas where you performed really well, you want to keep those consistent. And so kind of trying to figure out a game plan of where you're going to focus your studies moving forward as it relates to your specific performance. You also want to pay attention to how the questions are distributed in the exam. So for example, if section 1 is the biggest content area, and that's where you fell short, that was a great place to focus your attention on. Whereas if section 4, a content area 4, is something that was a little bit of a smaller portion and you did really well in, maybe that's where you just do like some quick refreshers and not prioritize your studying there.
That's fantastic, awesome. And then we have another question from Susan, and this kind of goes off of what like Ed Nutting was talking about, but they're asking, how do you recommend tackling PPD, PDD, PA after failing them once? What do you recommend to do to help pass them on the second round? What worked for you? So maybe if there's anything else for those like other exams as well too, that you might want to mention.
Yeah, I can speak a little bit on this, and then Emily, feel free to add anything as well. So the PA, PPD, and PDD, those are ones that align directly with the design phases of a project. As we know in reality, they're really building upon each other. So even though they are separate topics and they're separate phases of design, they all are interrelated somehow. So you're looking at the same topics essentially, but from different perspectives of design. And I think just having that in the back of your mind is really helpful if you are kind of tackling all 3 of these together. That was something that I didn't realize right away. And I felt like I was more so restudying the same things and not really being efficient. But when I had that mindset of, hey, these are all related, if I'm looking at a mechanical system, I should look at it from the 3 perspectives rather than just from one separately. So I guess just kind of building off of what we said, previously about looking at your performance as it relates, and just, I think, understanding the overlap. Emily, is there anything else you want to add to that?
Thanks. I think you covered it really well. Yeah, the only thing I would just reiterate what you said, that they are related, and looking at your score report to see what areas you did not do so well in is going to be your biggest tool in preparing to take it again. So really focus in on that. And I really loved your suggestion, Kiara, of looking at it from the perspective of the 3 exams, or looking at a topic from the perspective of the 3 exams might help you understand it a little bit more thoroughly, so that then you can distinguish what would apply for PA, PPD, and PDD.
And then I've got couple questions about our 30-day study challenge. I can just answer those really quickly. So first one's from Kailash, and it's for the 30-day challenge will be for all the divisions. And yes, it's going to be for all the divisions. You can sign up for any of them. Really what we're trying to do is trying to help you stay on track and help you study consistently for 30 days. We do recognize that our PPD and PDD sections, those do take longer to study, and generally you may need more than 30 days, but still the same concept applies for this 30-day challenge. We want you to have a space where you can see others studying the same division as you. You can ask questions. You have our study guide that you're going to be our 30-day and 60-day study guide that you're going to be able to use. You can also have you can update where you're at on our studying with our progress tracker, and then in our community as well too. You can connect with others. You can ask questions to our live architects, and really the main thing is to help you stay incentivized, and then also have a little accountability to make sure that you're actually going to study that random Tuesday in March. So really that's the goal for it. And then we have another question about the exam challenge too, to where will this be for the rest of the division? So yes, but then also, will we be doing this again just because we're only doing this for 30 days? And yeah, we are planning on doing this at least every 2 to 3 months. This is the first time that we're doing this, so we are looking for more feedback from everyone once it kicks off tomorrow. But we are planning on doing this consistently, because once again too, once you pass one exam, you still got 5 more to go too. And then we have one more question just about the study guide that we have as well too. The question is, will we be using the same study plan that we have for the same study guides that we have? And yes, you'll be able to download the study guide that you have on your dashboard, but I'm also going to be sending out an email to all participants that's going to include that 30-day study plan. And we're also doing a live Q&A session tomorrow as well too, where you can ask all these questions. Really, that the goal of that is to give you some tips on how to get studying and how to optimize that, but then also to help you navigate our community, navigate this study guide, make sure that this is curated for your study habits as well too. And then this last one is actually, can we reuse the structure after the challenge is ended? And 100%, and that one's from Kyle. And that really what we'd like to do is, if you notice that this 30-day structure works for you, rinse and repeat that for the rest of your exams as well too. We're trying to make it so that we're taking out the distractions. We recognize that life gets in the way while you're studying. You got work, you got family, you got all that going on. But really, this is something to help you stay focused and continue studying too. So we actually do recommend once you do pass one exam after this 30-day challenge, go ahead and apply that same study habits that you did for those 30 days onto the next 30 days. And then Kiara, I've got a couple more questions for you for the from our community. This next one is from Herbod. They're saying that they're stuck on PA right now. They've already passed 3 exams, PCM, PJM, and CE on their first try, but they just can't get past PA. They don't really know what else to do to read or watch. They think they know the material very well, but can't figure out the logic of the test designer in most questions. Do you have any advice for them on that? Really, this is looking like the kind of like the structure of the questions or that they're having an issue with.
Yeah, definitely. So, congratulations first off on passing PCM, PJM, and CE. You're halfway there. So that's really exciting. When you get into the technical exams, that is a totally different ballgame, is what I noticed. You are used to the exam format and you've, conquered 3 now. But once you start getting into things that relate to the technical aspect, to design, the questions are going to be a little bit different. They might be a little more, scenario based and allow you to really apply that technical knowledge. So first is really understanding how the questions are being asked and how to approach them. And what you can do for this is just really practicing as much as you can, utilizing practice quizzes, practice exams to not just understand, like what's the right answer, what's the wrong answer, but how do you dissect a question? If you're given a ton of information in a scenario, how do you weed out what's relevant and what's not? I always like to think of it similar to when you're meeting with a client in real life. They might just, dump a bunch of information on you, and you need to really decipher, like, okay, what do I need here to actually get this design going? And so you're doing a similar approach there. So really trying to practice that as you're going through practice questions and getting in the changing that mindset from the contract-based exams to technical. Something else, if you feel like you're just kind of turning your wheels and exhausting the study materials and you're not sure what to do next, try to diversify not just your study materials, but how you're using them. So finding ways to regurgitate the information in different ways. So if you've taken notes the last round in words and you're just, have this like intense outline, I personally write everything down. So I just would always have these notes to go off of. Maybe you restructure those, turn it into more of a graphic format. You're putting together diagrams, charts, you're actually drawing things, really build on architecture. It's really graphic. Put together, create your own flashcards and find ways to help practice recall that information. And then lastly, I would say this is a great opportunity if you aren't feeling like you're getting hands-on experience in these areas that you're struggling with in your work life. Maybe have a conversation with your supervisor and say, hey, I'm struggling with this exam. These are my objectives that I need to learn about, and I've learned in the books, but I want to learn how to apply them in real life. And I'm sure they would be happy to start putting you on projects or give you tasks that are related to what you're learning about, so you can start to draw those connections.
Awesome, thanks for that. This next one we have is from Jesus, and they're asking, how and where do you even get started? Do you just open up and select a section and then start studying? I think this is kind of like a two-pronged thing, to where I can answer this first part. If you are part of our subscription that does have the study guides, we always recommend that you go ahead and first look at those 30-day, 60-day study guides, and then start really adjusting that to your schedule. But then if you're on one of our subscriptions that isn't part of it, I really do suggest that you just start by starting with the video lectures. Those will be a great help for you, and then from there there'll be quizzes and practice exams that you can help out with. But Kiara, this next one also kind of comes into, like, they're talking about how and where to even get studying. Maybe they haven't even decided what division to even start studying on. So what would you do if you're just starting fresh at the ARE? You decided that you do want to start taking these exams, but it's a whole thing. It's 6 exams. Which one do you take first? How do you approach that whole process?
Yeah, that's a great question. First off, congratulations, because getting started is the hardest part. Taking the exams is really difficult, of course, but just saying you're going to do it and then actually doing it is a huge accomplishment. So, kind of going back to what we talked about with the order of exams, there's many different approaches of how to get started. And maybe if you have a lot of experience in the field already, you build on that. What have you had experience with in your work? Have you done a ton of construction documents? Have you been doing site analysis? Maybe you've worked with consultants a lot in determining systems for a project. Figuring out where does my experience lie and where am I most comfortable, and then kind of starting there. Taking a look at the ARE 5.0 guidelines is huge. So it's a really long document. It might be overwhelming to read through, but you should definitely be reading all of it and taking a look at what you're being tested on. So that will give you a good idea of what PCM is about versus what PJM is about. And then going from there and seeing where do I feel most comfortable? I think starting off with one that you feel most familiar with would be beneficial, just to kind of keep that momentum going and feel good about it. But if you just really don't know where to get started, I'd say PCM is a great place to start, because like we talked about, you actually have to just kind of get into the books and the videos and study for it, and then you'll be in that mindset moving forward.
Awesome, thanks. And then this next one is, actually I got one thing from McIntyre. They're asking, where's the community site that we have to ask questions? They just dropped this in the GoToWebinar chat that we have, but you can go to community.blackspectacles.com. There we have a thread pinned at the top called ARE Live, how to pass the ARE 5.0 in 2025. We do this for all of our ARE Live sessions where we communicate in our community there, but you can also use that to ask questions while you're studying. We have licensed architects that monitor our community every single day, so you can get an answer to. And then you can also connect with other people that are studying the same division as you. This next question is from Michelangelo, and they're asking, can you talk about taking the test in an accepted center versus the online option?
Yeah, definitely. So since the pandemic, you now have the option of, instead of taking the exams in a test center, you can do it online in a remote setting. And so I personally did all of my exams in that way. I mentioned that I, started studying in 2021, and so that's right in the middle of the pandemic, and so this online remote testing was brand new. And I personally felt like I would have rather taken the exams in a comfortable environment rather than getting ready and driving to a testing center and getting really stressed out about going into this unfamiliar place. It does require a little bit of extra work, so you have to set up, an empty room essentially that's free of prohibited items, and you have to do a security screening virtually, similar to how you would in person, and you have to rely on your personal internet to make sure everything goes well. But those are the main differences. Personally, for me, it went really well. Like I said, I wanted to be comfortable in my environment, but for some candidates, a testing center would be ideal because they need to be outside of their home or an area where they might not be able to focus. And so I think that's really up to personal preference. The ARE 5.0 guidelines has really great information about the difference between the two and how, what you actually need in order to take both. Emily, did you take them in a testing center, and do you want to speak on that?
Yeah, that's funny that you said that. When I took the exams, I took ARE 4.0. And the only option was a testing center. And I was just thinking to myself as you were speaking that I actually enjoyed the testing center. I think it really got me in that mindset of, okay, I'm here to pass an exam. So I did not mind the experience, but I also remember it was a little bit difficult to schedule exams in the testing center because they're testing for a lot of different exams, not just the ARE. So sometimes I could not get the date that I wanted, or I had to schedule it out sooner or later than what would have been ideal for me. So I think that's the benefit of being able to do it at your home, is that you can schedule it for whatever, I'm assuming, versus the test center, you're kind of at the liberty of their schedule as well.
Yeah, that's a great point. I remember when I went to schedule my online remote testing, there were a ton of options at any time of the day. And so that was really nice, is having that availability. But I definitely can understand, kind of being in the mindset of a testing center versus in your home. So I think it's really up to personal preference.
And this next one is coming from Katie. And she's asking, how many hours a week did you spend studying on average to pass an exam every 60 days?
Well, let's see. For me, I can't remember the specific number per week. General rule of thumb, we say 15 to 20 hours per week over 4 to 8 weeks is what we generally will recommend. For me personally, it's been so long, so I can't remember the exact number of hours, but I did do consistent studying every day. So I focused my studying on the weekends, just because that's when I didn't work and I had full free days to just do long durations of studying. So maybe, it was 3 to 4 hours on a Saturday and a Sunday. But I did do consistent studying every evening after work, just to keep the information fresh and not feel like it was kind of slipping my mind during the weekdays. And so maybe 1 hour after work every day, but it really just depended, because I might have thrown in some during the day. I think kind of going off of that rule of thumb, 15 to 20 hours per week, and then finding the times of days that work best for you is key. If you're studying for 30 days versus 60 days, this may look different. You might be able to study for less hours per week over 60 days versus 30 days, but depending on the division, we talked about PPD and PDD being very content heavy, and so those might take a little bit more even over the 60 days versus PCM or PJM.
Awesome, thanks. And then we got a couple more questions about our 30-day challenge, and I can just answer those really quickly. This one's from Gerlins, and they're asking, do you need to enroll in the 30-day study challenge in order to get the study guides? We've made the challenge available exclusively for people that are under our pro or expert memberships. Inside those memberships, you have access to all divisions and their study guides as well too. So you have access to this right now. Really what this challenge is, we're trying to have a place for you to stay accountable by being able to see other people studying your same exam, your same division, a place to where you can also see other people also studying every single day. And really we do recommend, if you're able to study for 30 days in a row, your chances of passing increase exponentially as well too. So really that's what we're trying to do, is help you stay focused, help you stay on track. And then Kailash was also asking, will the 30-day challenge cover all divisions? And yes, we'll be covering all the divisions. And really what we're trying to do is also have a place for you to maybe create study groups as well too, which David was just asking, are there any study groups on Black Spectacles for specifically the case studies for CE exam? And David, this is one of the things where honestly I'd recommend going to our community at community.blackspectacles.com and just posting on there and just being like, hey, does anyone want to start a study group about case studies for a CE exam? Maybe some people already have one, or I'm guessing you're not the only person that wants one, and there'll be other people that are like, yeah, I'd love to join. Let's hop on a FaceTime call on Saturday or something like that too. So I'd recommend doing that as well. And then we also have another question from Susan, and this one's really about the technical exams. And she's asking, is there anything you'd recommend we must do for our second try of technical exams besides video lectures, flashcards, and virtual workshops?
Yeah, so I would say it sounds like you're using the study materials to, its full potential already. But really, like I mentioned, diversifying how you're approaching them. So if you feel like you've, already gone through all the lecture videos, maybe you go through select ones again that you're really struggling with based on your past performance, or the ones that you personally know that you are having difficult time understanding, revisiting those and really just understanding the key concepts that are presented in the lecture videos. And then from there, kind of going into some additional resources. So the resource guide that NCARB identifies in the ARE 5.0 guidelines is where they get their questions directly from. It's where we get our materials from as well. And so making sure that you kind of go off from the videos into those additional resources in specific topics that you're struggling with. And then practice exams is something that's really big. Excuse me. I think that the the practice exams can be really intimidating because you have to devote, hours at a time, like as if you're taking the real exam. But that's what's so great about them, is you really get familiar with the exam format. And instead of just, kind of like understanding the knowledge and the information that's presented, you're also getting used to the format. And so you're just practicing applying your knowledge to that format. And then when you go through and finish the exam, don't just, look at your score and move on. Really pay attention to the exam summary that you're given in the practice exams. So which ones did you score correctly? Which ones did you score incorrectly? Reading through the correct and incorrect answer explanations so that you understand it fully. A lot of times you'll find hidden information in there that you maybe missed the first time around, or we didn't go as deep into in another form of study material. So it's really, using those pieces to its full potential. And I like that you mentioned the virtual workshops, because I was actually just thinking on the last question, a study group for case studies. That's essentially what our virtual workshops are. So I definitely recommend that anyone who's looking for that, check that out. We dive into the most difficult topics of the ARE in a case study format with a licensed architect coach and peers like yourselves who are studying these same divisions.
Awesome, thanks. And Devin, just want to give you a quick shout out on, you were asking a question about suggestions on how to take the test within the allotted time. One of our other licensed architects, Chris Hopstock, he just gave you a couple paragraph answers. Damn, quick typer. Couple answers in their community as well too, so you can go check that out. And then we have another question from we have like about 3 or 4 more questions, and then we're gonna wrap up this Q&A. But also, you can still drop questions in this thread, and then also anywhere in our community, and our team will get back to you as well too. So don't feel like I like to say, if you're having lunch later today and then you have a question, feel free to drop that in as well too. This next one is from Anthony, and also kind of goes hand in hand with what ACB Music was asking about, but they're asking about, is it better to study the material that NCARB sends out as well too? So essentially, do we recommend also checking out what NCARB has to do sends out as well?
Yeah, I would recommend definitely, in addition, kind of more to enhance what you're learning through Black Spectacles. If there's something that you're specifically struggling with, taking a look at what NCARB recommends for resources would be a great idea. And then paying attention to the ones that are primary versus supplemental, because that will give you a good indication of, where to prioritize those resources. Emily, do you have anything to add related to the NCARB resources?
But I will say that the NCARB resources are very thorough. So you can usually find the answer to what you're looking for in their resources.
Awesome, cool. And then I've got a question from Dan Lebel. And it kind of goes directly into like the main root of why we're doing this 30-day study challenge. But he's asking, how do you make sure that you don't stay, you aren't procrastinated while you're going through your path to licensure? Do you have any advice to help stay on track and stay focused while going through all these exams, while you have life getting in the way as well too? And Dan, I'll just say one thing right there is that is the main reason why we're starting this 30-day study challenge. This is something new for us that we haven't done before, but we recognize that at the end of the day, everyone just needs help on staying focused and having a supportive community to help them out with this. But Kiara, if you have any tips on how to stay focused and really how to just complete these exams one after another, so you can get on with this part of your life truly, and start being able to stamp blueprints.
Yeah, definitely. So that is one of the most difficult parts along this process. And it's one of those external stressors that we talked about, is staying focused and holding yourself accountable. First off, knowing why you're doing what you're doing. Why do you want to become licensed? Why are you taking these exams? What is your driving factor and motivation? And constantly remind yourself of that. That might sound a little cheesy, but just knowing in the back of your mind why you're doing it, rather than just doing it because you feel like you have to or should, could really make a big difference. And write it down, put it up on your wall, and just look at it all the time and know that this is why I'm doing it, and that will keep you motivated. But kind of just on a daily basis, if you have a goal of how much you should be studying per day, personally for me, I thrive on checklists. So if I missed a day of checking off my study goal, I took it really hard. And so I personally would like use that as motivation. Like, I need to check that off. I studied for so many hours for the day, and then I was good. If I missed a day, you know, it wasn't the end of the world. I would just have to know that I had to make that up later in the week in some way. I think, you know, life definitely gets in the way. There's a ton of things, and especially like if you're not in school anymore, you're not really in the studying mindset, you're working full time, maybe you have a family, maybe you have other obligations. There are so many things that could hinder this process. So really checking in with yourself and having an ambitious but realistic plan. You know, if you have other obligations outside of this, don't go and cram in all 6 exams back to back in a month, but be strategic and realistic about it. Spread them out over the course of the next year or 2 even. You know, taking breaks in between the exams as well. Don't feel like you need to power through them all. There can be a lot of external stressors and pressure that you're putting on yourself for the sake of these exams, where in the end you just need those 6 passes, and you know, making sure that you're getting them. You know, we don't have a rolling clock through NCARB anymore, but some jurisdictions do. So just making sure you're paying attention to that, but don't feeling like you need to rush through them just for the sake of rushing through them. I'd say after every single exam, allow yourself a breather, regardless of the outcome. If you passed, go out and celebrate. Take some time off. Don't just start diving into the next books. If you did not pass, do the same thing. Take a breather, take a break, and don't just jump right in the next day. Really reflect on the experience and take a breather. It's really important to practice self-care throughout this whole process and not just feel like you're chugging along and getting burnt out, because in the end, that's just going to do more damage than good.
Sweet. Thanks for that advice, Kiara. We do have, looking like we have about 2 more questions, and then we're gonna wrap up the Q&A for today. But this next one is from McIntyre, and it's really on maybe switching up the order, and they want to hear your advice on this one of the exams. But they're asking, what are your thoughts on taking PJM before taking PCM?
Yeah, I mean, it's totally up to you. That doesn't sound like it'd be a bad idea. I think if maybe you have some experience in managing projects and that's something you feel like you could build off of, that's a great place to start. I think between PCM and PJM, they're very similar. You're essentially managing a firm and managing a project, you know, between the two, but you're looking at the contracts, you're looking at the administrative side of projects, and you're looking at things from that perspective versus the technical aspect. And so it does require kind of like we said, like that studying and learning the information in a new way. But maybe you're more likely to have hands-on experience with managing a project than managing a firm, and that could help you kick off this journey. And then from there, it'll just kind of influence your PCM studies as well. So I think that sounds like a great plan. Again, the order of exams that you take is totally personal and up to you. And if you're feeling like leaning one way or another, that's kind of out of the typical realm of approaches, then go for it if you feel like it could work for you.
Awesome, thanks. And then I've just got 2 more things. One's actually a note from one of our licensed architects on the team, Chris Hopstock. And this was actually his advice for helping stay motivated as well too throughout this. Chris would actually always tell his friends, colleagues, everyone else they knew that he was studying and when his exams were, because he knew that they asked how it was going and then also how he did after the exam as well too. That gave him the extra motivation because also he just wanted to tell them that they passed too. I know there, if you tell your family and then you got that family group chat asking you how the exam went that week before, it's one of those things that it's gonna keep you motivated as well too. And then we just have one more question from N Nutting, and this one's about does Black Spectacles provide study materials for individual state supplemental exams, specifically in California? At this moment, we do not. I'm actually based in Los Angeles, so I understand the significance of why we would want that. But at this moment, we don't offer those. But we still do have licensed architects on the team that you can feel free to like reach out to like our customer support for really just like getting started on like where to look for those type of materials. That's all for today. Kiara and Emily, it's been such a pleasure to have you today, and thanks so much for helping us support the architecture community. If you're joining us for the first time, Black Spectacles is the leader in ARE prep. We work with learning scientists and architects to ensure you're studying the right content and that you retain it so you can pass on the first try. Our next ARE Live is going to be on March 19th, where we'll be finishing our 3-part series covering your path to licensure. This next episode is going to be really going into the fine details of specific questions. So we're going to be covering the study tactics to pass the ARE on your first try. You can go to blackspectacles.com/podcast to sign up, or check out the community page for this episode as well too. Pinned at the top of this thread as well too, there's a link to sign up for that next ARE Live session as well. Over on our Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook, we post mock exam questions daily. So if you don't already follow us, I suggest that you do. We're at black.spectacles on Instagram and TikTok, and just Black Spectacles on Facebook. We offer a referral program for firms and schools where if you introduce us to your boss or HR, and if they sign up, and we'll give you a $250 gift card of your choice. To participate, follow the instructions on blackspectacles.com/group-referral. And we also offer a refer a friend program as well too. You can sign up to receive a customized discount code to save your friend 15% off any membership and receive a $50 gift card of your choice when they redeem. Go to blackspectacles.com/referral to participate. And congratulations to El Menino. You posted on our ARE community today and you just won a free Black Spectacles t-shirt. I'll reach out to you via email to get your size and shipping information, so look out for that email soon. And just a reminder, if you'd like to be eligible to win a t-shirt, post a question you have about our featured topic in our community during our next ARE Live. And our community is always active, not just during ARE Live, so poke around and see what your peers are up to and asking about. Black Spectacles is hosting a 30-day study challenge to help you pass one exam in 30 days. The 30-day study challenge is here to help you stay focused and on track with a clear study plan, built-in accountability, and a supportive community to help you confidently schedule and pass your next ARE exam. This challenge starts tomorrow, Thursday, February 20th, and ends on Friday, March 21st, and is available exclusively to pro and expert members. Go to your learning dashboard to sign up on learn.blackspectacles.com. In fact, we also just launched a new podcast called Licensure Stories, where you can find that on our ARE community, our YouTube channel, or your favorite podcasting service, where our founder interviews recently licensed architects to learn about their struggles and successes so you can learn how they did it. Check out Licensure Stories on our ARE community or YouTube channel. And as a thank you for coming, we'd like to offer you a 15% off code for any membership. You can use the code PASS15 and it'll be valid until March 18th, 2025. This will be great to help you get started studying. And if you have any questions while you're getting started studying, feel free to reach out to our customer service. In the bottom right corner, you'll see a little chat feature. You can reach out to them and we have licensed architects that will answer your questions. And finally, be sure to take our survey at the end, which you'll find in an email after this episode, and share any suggestions you may have. I promise we read every word you write and use them to tune our next episodes. Thanks for tuning in.